Welcome to Welcome to Strategy and Solidarity Pod, the podcast, an act of revolutionary defiance and celebration of the things that bring us comfort, solace, and joy as we sit on this cold planet together alone. Or alone together probably is better. Anyway, I'm Carlos Kareem Wyndham.
And I'm Theresa Logan.
Hey, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good today.
What's pretty good?
I had a good weekend. Did some good work with my spiritual community, and just feeling like if I treat every day as my opportunity to create a work of art, what can I do with it? What kind of art can I create with my day today, given the materials I have to work with? So it's more like a upcycle scrap reclaiming art project. Because I don't have a blank canvas and every material I would most like to craft with necessarily. But if I just ground myself in this is my opportunity to create with what it's here to create with, what can I create today? Maybe it will be a clean kitchen with clean dishes. Maybe it will be a dirty kitchen full of dirty dishes because I spent my time doing something else that was important. But like just taking that taking that radical accountability of like everything I get to do in my day is a choice to create something, and am I being intentional and centering myself in like, and there's a part where it starts to sound cheesy, but am I really centering myself in like true love and connection and creation and the energies that I want to be generating and living in the world?
Now, why is that cheesy? What's cheesy about that? Why is that cheesy?
It sounds cheesy.
Really?
It sounds cheesy.
How do I move through the world with love? Sounds cheesy?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No.
Right. I guess I've been rubbing off on you. That's not.
Well, there's the toxic positivity people who are like love and light, and I'm like, yeah, but when I say true love, I mean like rage and anger that are fueled by love, because they're that kind of love that's not just niceness and ease and shallow good feelings of comfort, but like really in love with life and all of creation, and all the heartbreak and challenges that come along with that are part of the metaphysical roller coaster ride of human existence.
There we go.
Anyway,
that's what I'm after. That's today? What I was after. I want to scrape the lottery ticket. That's what I wanted to hear. That don't sound cheesy. That sounded fantastic. How am I today? I am functioning quite well. I am irked unreasonably. But it is beyond reason, and I am aware. I can feel literally, right? And I know that I've already lost us at least one follower talking about this shit, but like whatever. I can feel the pull.
Probably still got two left.
Yeah, I know, right? I can feel the pull. By the way, tell a friend how wonderful this is and share it with them. Share it with somebody you love. Share it with somebody you hate. I can feel the pull of the planets and the movement in the stars and the alignments right now that has me feeling both in hibernation and go mode for myself, and consequently it's like very irritating to be in my skin and brain, and then knowing that is also happening, and having witnessed both personally, professionally, out in the streets as people are driving, that is what's happening right now. It's that's also irritating, because I don't want to have to be the one who is trying to conduct myself properly because the rest of the world is out of sorts. Because what about me? And then that it reminds me that, well, that is toxic patriarchal bullshit thinking, and let that go, because you are not stuck in traffic, and you are not um, arguing with anybody outside of yourself. And um, it's you. So stop it. Or, attitudinally, right? Because it is what it is. We are where we are. But it
Mhm.
goes back to the saying that the axiom that I has become one of mine from my father of wiggle where you stand, because may not be a whole lot of room on the dance floor, but you could still make something happen. So, to your point.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And your nervous system, how's that doing?
Yeah, my nervous system is doing good. This I wasn't really planning to talk about it, but this like community ritual we did over the weekend was very impactful on an energetic level. And again, wasn't planning to talk about this, but I feel called to share now.
Listen,
So here we
we got to
go.
talk about something. I mean,
it
come
was
on.
our community death festival. And what the community death festival is a
Shoving a bunch
chance
of people off a
to
cliff. I had one of
no,
those too. No,
no,
wait, what? No,
absolutely
I
not.
didn't do that.
No.
Absolutely didn't do that. What is it that you're talking
It
about?
is our opportunity to compost and dispose of all of the
Dead
waste, junk,
bodies.
and shit that's accumulated in the community over the year, which really is more like resentments and petty conflicts and our annoyances with other people, because other people are annoying. Well,
Oh,
it's like
that's
utopia. I'm
okay.
like, even in utopia, people are going to be annoying. Like, it's just the nature of human existence. People are annoying. But it's our opportunity to just kind of like name the patterns we've seen happening in the community without like airing specific grievances against specific individuals. It's our opportunity to kind of name and air the different patterns we've seen playing out that are not healthy or supporting the growth of the community, and then energetically transmute those and compost and put to death those things. Most of the time, we end up realizing that that are annoying us about other people are things that we ourselves are also doing or annoyed with ourselves about.
What?
Funny.
How weird.
And
What is, it's like you're human in the human world and stuff.
yeah, I really feel like
Yeah.
I got an energetic upgrade through the work that we did there, especially in being able to connect into my own heart. And like, really, I'm trying to sit there and be really heart centered and listen to what I'm being called to do in the moment. The supposed tos and shoulds are so violent. Like, they're just
Mm.
violent. Like death by a thousand paper cuts violence, maybe, or maybe as much as like the bars on a cage. But shoulds and supposed to's, like, we use them so violently against ourselves, and how harshly we criticize what we should be doing in the moment, and against other people. We're like, well, you should be doing. And it's just like, it is really a violence of limitation. And it creates this feeling that there is some ideal or expectation or grand plan or some role you should be playing within the machinery of
Mm.
the capitalist corporate structure we all have to survive, that you're not doing correctly. So it just feeds into this lie of imperfection and separation, and that there's something inherently wrong with us, kind of going back to all this like original sin, uh, Judeo-Christian nonsense. And all respect to folks who still find liberation and guidance and strength and support in Christianity.
And
I
that
no longer
nonsense.
do, partly because of I saw how deeply those lies of like there being something evil and inherently bad or wrong with me, especially as a woman who was
Yeah.
raised Catholic, how much it had woven itself through my psyche. And so the more I've been able to pull those lies and the roots of that out of myself, the more I'm able to, move with joy and happiness and creation. And really think about, what am I here to create? Not what am I supposed to do that I'm either rebelling against or resisting or trying to force myself through, but like, what am I here to create? And then that, taking that time to just really sit and listen over the last couple of days, mostly it was like, you should probably lay down and take a nap. Don't have to, not supposed to, but it's like, if I really listen and I'm really centered in my heart, it's like, actually, I'm tired and I think I need to go lay down. And
Yeah.
so it was a lot of that, but it was also like, here's the one thing I need to do today. was really connecting with, what kind of energy am I trying to create in my home? And the one thing that was to like sit in my living room and put my feet up and play a game with my kids. And like that was the one thing I needed to do yesterday. And to finally give myself a break after, 2 months of, packing up the old house and moving into this one. It's like it can't just be a constant exercise of perfectionism of just go 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 until some ideal ending point that I will never arrive at. Of perfection with 3 kids in my house. As soon as I clean something up, someone else makes another mess. But what is the energy I'm trying to create and cultivate here, and making time for that instead of the perpetual fretting over what's not perfect and what's not right.
Hmm. For instance, the imperfection of wearing glasses on your eyeballs and what sometimes happens when they
contact.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Is was.
But that's me. I think it does sound a little bit cheesy, especially if
You're wrong.
you're stuck in a place of dissatisfaction with everything in life. It's annoying to hear people who are satisfied with life. And sometimes I feel that it's almost, I think it's like a form of survivor's guilt or something, maybe, that it almost feels like socially unacceptable to be doing okay right now because so many people are having such a hard time that it's kind of like there's a performative expectation that we're all supposed to be really struggling right now. And we are. And I don't know where that line is between how do we, it's so important and so necessary to claim our joy and claim the space where we have to rest or find relief or solace, comfort, celebration. Um, I think it just becomes so hard to keep fighting against the hard things and the injustices and find the energy to go out and take action where we can if we're not also fueling ourselves with joy and creation and love and the things that give life meaning.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your
Is it
deep thought?
survivor's guilt? Is it something else? What do you think?
Hmm.
Is it okay to be okay right now? Or is it okay to be okay? Or do you get harshly judged for being
No,
okay
shame on
in this
you.
moment?
How dare you? How dare you? No, it's fine to be okay. I mean, the world is um torturous, arduous, uh when one is conscientious and aware and simultaneously doing the flip side of what you're talking about, doing the mat in a race, rat in a maze, and trying to figure out how to not participate, right, or how to do it ethically, as was oft said in the 90s. We're going to be ethical capitalists, ethical consumers, and it's like, well, no, you're not. That's not. I mean, you could do better, you could do less harm, but you're not going to. It's not ethical. Um, Not if you're in this country. We're on the battleship, right? Like this place does not provide the opportunity to consume anything from communications to electricity to food in ethical manners. It just doesn't, right? It doesn't mean that you're bad, right? But knowing the distinction, or that I'm bad, but knowing the distinction between where it is a systemic and a structural piece, right? And it's my piece. And then owning what are my pieces within this structure, right? And not just owning it, but embracing that is not accepting what is dissatisfactory, nor is it, I would argue, uh, um, healthy or nor uh, a practice of solidarity to do a performance of poverty or suffering because other people happen to be there, right? Like that doesn't make any sense. That does not make any sense. Um,
I think me and the
it's like,
kids we're
go
rewatching
ahead.
The Office, and there was an episode where near the end where Andy Bernard had taken over, and he was like asking Daryl, like, "Help me think about some things I could say that would make it sound like I've had a harder life than I have." It was like, it
Yeah.
does feel like that sometimes. Like people are competing in the, we talk about in terms of the oppression Olympics, but it feels like who's suffering the most or who's the biggest victim or something, in ways that are really really unhelpful.
Very unhelpful. I mean,
And then
there's suffering to be had for everybody. It's just as there's justice to be had for everybody, right? Like, if there is injustice, when Reverend King was talking about injustice for one is injustice that impacts us all, and obviously I'm paraphrasing because are not quotes that I memorized, committed to memory, but the impact of that ethos is to understand that, like, if you are benefiting off of the injustice, you are still suffering. And whether or not you're able to recognize that is one thing, but it's going to manifest whether or not you can articulate it, own it, and then try to either transmute or minimize that, right? And if you get lost in the sauce and you start thinking that the rewards, economic, the little jewels and gems that people get for actually continuing to disrupt a system and develop a system that keeps people in poverty at the bottom of things, really suffering day to day and wondering where the next meal is going to come from. One, you're not doing that, right? Two, the people who are doing that, they are suffering just as much as we do when we are witnessing what is happening and being unable to address it, which is very different than the suffering that is happening for the people who are not able to eat or living in food scarcity, right? Uh, if you're living in food scarcity, whether it's through the food desert or economically, or trying to figure out how to feed four with a budget for two or one, right? Like all of those things are created by the honestly, the Tucker Carlsons and the Swanson families and this sort of thing. It is to their benefit, right? That theirs are the most economically available and affordable meals, though they may be the least healthy, right? And to ensure that you cannot afford that which would benefit you the most, because that's not what they're selling and it would cost too much and it would not add to their piles and piles and piles and piles of money. So that's not what they're trying to do. They're trying to get you to go to Safeway or Kroger or whatever, go to the frozen section, get your pre-made meals, and go to work for far too many hours to then have to like just pop those in the microwave and not be able to spend any time with your family cooking or eating or doing any of the things, right? That is what the end game of the system is. The more money you make, it's not great. Well, until you make enough money that like then you're free again and then you can cook with your family and do all the things. But like, that system is not you. And if you don't, mm, people lose the benefit of having you serving as a possibility model, right? If you don't own where you are, right? And I've known you for a very long time. I've known you for a decade plus, and I have seen your evolution. I have seen your transformation, and the way that you are even, humble and generous enough to talk about your spiritual community as a um, platform that allows for further growth and creating more comfort and resilience for yourself in this world. I think that's a beautiful thing, and that it's demonstrative, and it's a reminder. It's a reminder if folks aren't in a place to be able to do a thing, or feel like they're not in a place to do a thing today, that they can tomorrow, and the choices that we make moment by moment are the only determinant in where you are in a moment, right? And you have made a series of choices that have led to an evolution for you. And so owning that, showing that, sharing that, I think honestly, I take umbrage, not offense, with the idea of that being cheesy. I disagree. I do not believe that you move nor speak to the issue as do the toxic positivity people who are telling you that you can fix your cancer with a smile or whatever the hell they're telling people. I think you're doing very real work in very many ways for yourself, your family, your clients, your work partners. Like I think it matters very much, and don't. I would encourage you to don't dismiss that. Um, it's
Oh,
it's
I'm not
it's part of
dismissing that.
the depth and like the sound of it. Like it is what it
Mm-hmm.
is. Like it's not, spirit is what it is. Like I don't know how other
Oh
people
yeah, no, that's
experience.
just
It's not
my
your business.
previous selves who think that it is cheesy. Because
Okay, good.
me 10, 20 years ago, what is this nonsense?
Yeah.
What is this white hippie woo woo nonsense? That was kind of my approach to most things. Yeah, it's funny to look at how we change and evolve over time.
You want to think about it for a minute? Take a little quick
Yeah,
break and
I don't
come
know.
back.
Sounds good.
All right, let's do it. Go get an eel sandwich. We'll be right back. Gross. I don't know why an eel sandwich. Probably I'll cut that. That's nasty.
Butterfly in the sky, I can go twice as high. Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow. I can go anywhere, friends to know and ways to grow, a reading rainbow.
Hey, welcome back. So, during the break, we were talking a little bit about what the not quotation, paraphrasation, which I'm coining, and write it down. New word, paraphrasation of Dr. King, and the message of understanding that suffering is not something that happens at an individual level, when it is a matter of an equity, right? What you were sharing a thought that was leading you to. Can you speak to it?
I don't know if it was so much in response to the quote, but just thinking about the time period that we kind of harkened back to that time period of Dr. King, and I think so much of the whitewashed version of his holiday and his legacy of just everyone is nice to everyone, regardless of the color of their skin, really erases so much of his work and so much of his message, and forgetting that he really was fighting for economic justice at the time of his death, like universal economic justice. Um, and so we're looking at, there's been a lot of talk on social media over the past week or so, based on an article that Mike Green, an asset manager, wrote calculating that the poverty line right now in 2025 probably should be about $140,000 per year for a family of four. And lots of people going, yes, absolutely. And lots of people going, that is absolutely absurd. Right? And so the calculation in the article, because the poverty line for a family of four in today's dollars, as calculated by the federal government, is about $31,200, which I feel like we could do like a survivor show of taking middle class and upper middle class people and then watching them try to survive on $31,000 a year with their kids.
I think that was a show. I don't remember what it's called now.
Was it?
But yeah, they were
Swap?
doing that. Built on that same premise, but it was like, yeah, it was that same like, okay, you're gonna do 3 days on this and like whatever. And anyway, point being,
3 days. You can do anything for 3 days. Try that for 3 years. See how you're
Right.
surviving at the end of 3 years trying to survive on that. How quick would they tap out and be like, I'm done. I want off the Survivor Island of poverty. Survivor Poverty Edition.
make Bezos do it.
Anyway, so this calculation, we actually looked at it two different ways and came up with about the same number, which was to take the calculation from 1963 was that food accounted for about a third of household expenses in 1963. So they took the average cost of food for a family of four in 1963 and tripled it and decided that was a poverty line cutoff. Now, in 2025, food makes up less than 10% of a family's basic expenses, 5 to 7% or so, while housing takes up somewhere around 30 to 40%. Healthcare is 15 to 25%. Childcare, if you got little kids who are not school age yet, even after they're in school, freaking before care and after care, because school does not line up with work hours, it's 20 to 40%. So he looked at all of those things and said, okay, so if we take that same calculation and say food's maybe 5 to 7% of the budget, then it's no longer a third. It's like 5 to 7%. So if you times it by that many times, then you get up to actually about $140,000. Then he also looked at another cost, which was to just take the average expenses for each of those things for a family of four. And that family of four is two parents with two kids. So there's things like if both parents have to work, they probably both need a car. That may or may not be true given remote work and blah, 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 blah. But average basic expenses for an average standard U.S. Standard of living, and came up with about $136,000. So came up with the same number, with two different kinds of calculations. And I have many thoughts about this. There's a lot of camps of like, yes, absolutely, and no, that's absurd. And mine is like, well, both. It's both. Because if you are actually a single mother trying to survive on $36,000 a year, hearing someone who makes $100,000 a year complain about how they're impoverished, it might be incredibly activating, because the difference in lived experience between $36,000 and $100,000 a year, having lived both of those experiences myself, is vast, right? So I think there's, both things can be true as far as strategy and solidarity goes. If we can raise the poverty level higher, then we can get a lot more benefits and services to people who need them to actually raise the standard of living. So as a strategy, it would be very helpful to get our federal calculations adjusted to actual lived experience standards. And as a strategy for building solidarity, I think that it's worthwhile to also have some compassion and understanding, instead of sitting there making $100,000 a year and being like, yeah, I'm poor. Might be like, I am making it, and it wouldn't take much to push me back down into poverty. And our real focus needs to be on what do we do for the folks making $36,000 a year, who are suffering a lot more than the people making $100,000 a year. Let
me ask you this. Who is this person screaming, yeah, I am poor, and making $100,000 a year? Or is this a scarecrow? And I'm asking for myself, because that does seem wild. But also, to your point, right? If we are trying to create a just society in which the social services that are offered to only the very wealthy and the very poor are offered to sustain the so-called and imagined middle class, as well as they used to be, right? Except that it was, reserved to a GI Bill, or it was reserved to this or that neighborhood, and it was specifically to ensure, right, that white men in their early 20s would end up becoming the burgeoning consumer class, right, with their families. So, is the is there somebody running around making $100,000 plus screaming that they're poor, or is that just something that occurred to you given the
I don't know
context
about
of the article?
screaming. I wouldn't say screaming, but I would say plenty of people are like, yes, absolutely. If you're making 140, you're barely getting by. You're struggling. That's barely surviving. And I think that part is kind of silly. And
That's in the comments or something?
there's been people making these kinds of comments.
Yeah. No,
Then there's
I'm
people
asking
talking
for
about
real. I'm asking
you're
for real.
only you're lower middle class if you make $350,000 a year in New York or something. Like, sure, different cost of living, different places, but the difference between $100,000, $350,000 a year is absurd. Like, the standard of living that some people are saying that they must meet is some American delusion. Right?
It's an American delusion, and also, like, right, we know because we were just talking about the fact that these investment groups are wherever their origin, owning properties to a degree where there are 22 available properties for every houseless person, and there are houseless people, right? Like, for both of those things to be true says something very large about the moral decay of this country and
they're vampires.
the concern. Right.
Yeah, the private equity firms, they're vampires.
Yeah, absolutely. And as such,
and American consumption patterns are zombies, just walking around trying to consume everything. It doesn't need to cost this much is the thing, right? Yes, that is how much it costs for a family to try to survive in this economy that's going to continue to experience more inflation and more collapse. But it's like, it doesn't need to cost that much. It would not cost that much per person if we had universal health care and universal child care.
Yeah.
If we had more opportunities for hybrid and remote work, then you don't need 2 cars for every 2-parent family, right? Like, there's certain things like that our goal should not be everyone to be spending this much on all of these things. Our goal should be, how do we meet all of our collective needs? It would be a lot more efficient and affordable if we were doing that collectively, instead of trying to figure out how every single family tries to survive in Monopoly. When clearly by the end of Monopoly, there's only one winner. There's only ever one winner in the game of Monopoly. But in the game of universal healthcare, universal childcare, universal well-being, then we can all win.
Do I win?
People think that's cheesy and evil somehow. I don't understand that one. Do you?
I've never won Monopoly. Can I be the winner?
What do you?
I'm better at Trivial Pursuit.
I don't know. So. I
Okay.
think you have a soul. I think in real life you kind of have to not have a soul to win a Monopoly. You have to not have a soul and not care about other people.
Yeah, no, I'm not good at it. I wonder, as you are speaking to all of this, right? And earlier you were speaking to your experience with your spiritual community and where and how and some of the ways in which you are at a familial level experiencing health and honest wellness in terms of stability. What feels hedgy, right, about speaking to, if anything, issues of the economy, of poverty, of these levels for you? You were talking about it being triggering, not triggering, that's obviously upsetting to read or hear about somebody who does have an income but is also trying to navigate a life that is unsustainable on that income, that they are also in the poverty level for the reasons of this calculation. What all is that bringing up for you?
Oh, I'm just
in
seeing the
terms of sharing
voices of
your
the most
positionality?
privileged of the impoverished being prioritized over the voices and experience of the people who are actually at the low end of that. As
I
in
see.
most
I
everything
see.
else, the folks with more privilege are complaining louder about their problems, while kind of, to me, that sounds like it feels like it starts to erase the experience of like the vast majority of people who are making like less than $50,000 a year in this country.
Right. And yes, yeah, emotionally, I definitely see that. The thing that comes up for me is that if regulatorily, I'm making up all kinds of good words, that through regulation, we are establishing a
We're not.
network.
There's no effort by the
Oh,
current
no, no,
federal
no, no, no,
administration
no,
to
no, no,
adjust
no,
these
no.
numbers that
I
I'm aware of.
understand.
This is
I
like a thought
understand. This is no,
experiment in the public sphere.
which we're doing. And so let's not pop a balloon in it.
If we could adjust this regulation.
But if regulation could be adjusted to address this, would there be any benefit? Because it's going to have to happen, right? Like this Gilded Age there's no way that this is sustainable. So as reorganization is happening, do we not need? And I'm asking, right? I am asking, do we not need the voices who have those platforms speaking to this very issue because of setting a baseline that would then alleviate the most impoverished as well?
I mean, sure, but I think it actually is starting to miss the point. Again, it should not take that amount of money to survive in the society, because it's making every expense an individual expense. Like, we spend more on healthcare in this country than almost any other country in the world, perhaps more than any other country in the world, completely unnecessarily. If we had universal healthcare, we could do away with the insurance companies and save so much money. They vampires siphon off so much money that they just get to put in shareholder pockets. It doesn't deliver better healthcare to Americans who have some of the worst health outcomes among the so-called developed world. And it's just, we're just letting ourselves be eaten by vampires and zombies. And like, there's so many other things we could be doing. So sure, in the short term, if we could adjust that number, which seems unlikely, but yeah, there's not a reason not to do that. But the bigger issue is one of economic restructuring, so that we're meeting those basic needs without it needing to be individual household expenses people are trying to come up with when there is no money to come up with those things. The
Right.
poverty
Well,
line
I mean,
wouldn't
and
need
for
to be
me, that's
140,000 if we had universal healthcare and universal childcare.
Right. Well, and again, right, like that's the thing about the basic services that would be needed to alleviate, right, this, or to eliminate this disparity of the Gilded Age, right? Because this is not a concern held by your George Clooney's living in France and your Johnny Depp's living on whatever island they've created for them. Like that this is just, they don't even, this is not their concern, right? This is the concern of those who are actually living in the United States, including those who had been made promises, which, by the way, at this point, I would say would include every working adult down to Gen Z, promises about what was possible in terms of surviving in this country, right? That the idea of seeing two people with regular jobs having a decent apartment on television was not some baffling goof on you, when that first began, right? It only looks ridiculous in the current economy to think that anybody would be able to do such a thing, and have ownership of that living space.
Well, that's the other thing about the development of the poverty line in the 60s is there was an assumption that it was a nuclear, white middle class family household of a father who went to work and a mother who was at home doing free labor for childcare and food preparation and navigating all the things that need done on a daily basis. So there's a lot of free labor that was, implied in that original calculation that is not the norm, because you need, for people who have two people in a household, which we all don't, but it feels like for a lot of folks, you need two incomes in order to survive. And so that's where we see folks, doubling up on house sharing and all kinds of other things. It's very, very challenging to get by with as a single income earner in this economy when you're trying to do all that unpaid labor at home while also support your family financially.
Yeah, it gets messier and messier too, the more we scratch at the history of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just like, that is how that happened during the creation of the nuclear family. And the idea of there being a class structure in which white women in particular were middle class women, right? That meant having sets of skills that included correspondences and penmanship and being able to play an instrument and being able to do cross stitch and or
go back to Victorian with the cross stitch and the playing the harpsichord.
Quite honestly, right? Because that era, right? Again, the so-called free domestic labor that was happening because they had servants and they had enslaved hostages, and those enslaved hostages were providing that work. Once that ended, somebody needed to do it, right? And then all of a sudden, now the women who were living in households, many of whom owned slaves, found themselves having to actually do shit that was like, wait a minute, this is domestic. Why am I doing domestic shit?
And we went from the 1960s back to like the 1860s.
Right. I'm traveling through, right? Okay, and so going through all of those periods of then, right, that calcifying as a system that was not broken until the 1970s, right? When credit was reestablished, right, across boundaries of gender, while the foundational anti-blackness and racism of the country has not shifted, right? We still find ourselves and all of this occurs to me, right? We find ourselves in a circumstance where the levels of correction that are needed are so deep and intertwined that even if we start looking at what does domestic labor mean, which certainly the current administration is, which is why the degrees that come from domestic labor are no longer professionalized, because why would it be professional to be doing slave labor? Because that's actually what it is. It's not women's labor. It became women's labor. It was slave labor, and then became women's labor
before enslavement as well. But sure, yes.
Oh, certainly in this country, I'm talking about, right? Like, and so,
I mean, before colonization, there was still gendered division of labor.
Yes. That being foundationally locked in as the idea that the gendered or not free labor that would be coming from a system of enslavement, of chattel slavery first, of then the folks who could not get out of working the fields and working the farms, right? And then into the whole system of Jim Crow, through the system of redlining, now through the 80s and the crack epidemics, so-called, right? Which was really just
assault.
entirely manufactured assault on communities, up through today, right? Where it is explicit and being written out by the government that like we're trying to just whiten things up. That's pretty much what's happening right now. All of that to say, right, that yes, I agree, and it would have to be structural. If it were going to be structural, then we're talking about universalizing systems, right? And if we're talking about universalizing systems, that is the nice way in the United States to say socialism and or communism, because you can't say that because everyone freaks out and starts losing their shit. But if we do not offer the opportunity and the care, right, for people to be part of society, then all of, for me, so much human potential is lost in having to squeeze out every ounce of energy into their systems and not spending it doing the sorts of things that you were doing this weekend, right? In terms of spending it with your spiritual family, spending it with the community that grounds you spiritually. If we're not doing that and taking the opportunity to do that and given the opportunity to do that structurally, then again, so much evolution, creation, an experience is just lost to humanity.
All right, I think we have to evolve our economic philosophy beyond this like team jackets for which side of the European binary of economic systems you're on. Like treat it more like it's like we're on a team and I got my team jacket on and I either advocate wholeheartedly for capitalism, unrestricted and unrestrained, or I advocate wholeheartedly for hardcore Marxist communism. And it just seems silly in 2025. We have plenty of data points for the failings of both systems, and there must be other alternatives. I know that there are. I know there's pre-colonial indigenous economies. I'm sure there's other, probably women economists who are not well known who've done lots of writing. There's institutional economics. There's all kinds of things out there where we could be looking at the economy in a different way than these kind of binary systems that we've been stuck in since World War II. And I guess probably for the entire 20th century. But those are not the only two options. I don't know exactly what the other ones are. I'm not saying I know and I have a plan, because I don't think any one person has the plan, but I do think there's lots of different things we can experiment with. And I think there's lots of people all over the place experimenting with other things already, with mutual aid and gift economies and lots of other things. I don't think they have enough resources to be like immediately broadly applicable, but I think we have to start thinking about what are the values that we want our economy and our society to function on. The economy is just how we move energy around the society. If we decide what kind of society we want to live in, then we can figure out how to move the energy around. And clearly there has to be some room for individual expression and innovation and autonomy. There's also got to be room for like taking care of people's basic needs, because we have the capacity to, and we want to be a society that cares about people. I wish we were willing to invest as much in human intelligence as we're willing to invest and throw away and just light on fire for artificial intelligence. Like $72 billion, it got lost trying to do this metaverse thing or whatever. And they just write that off like it's nothing. Like, what could we have done with $72 billion if we invested that in like school lunches that aren't garbage and universal health care and quality education that isn't just teaching kids to get the right answer to a test. Like, there's so many things we could create, so much that we could be if we were invested in that. someone asked on social media, they're like, why do you think the left in the US is so disorganized and ineffective? And there's lots of people like, Reaganomics and, the Red Scare and blah, 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 which are not untrue, but I just wrote racism, period. That's really all it is. If we come back to it, to your point, right? Like that, the white supremacy and the need to have the right answer and be the one on top and like watch the other people suffer. Is just the thing I don't know how to deal with in the US.
No. Well, a lot of very old ideas that tie into it that are, many of which are collapsing, right? But alpha male nonsense and hunting and gathering is, and even the binary of the family structure being this thing of that you were speaking to. Of to folks of different gender expressions raising a family together. I mean, maybe.
Isolating women at home with only children all day long with no other way to connect with other human beings and be an adult with adult thoughts. It works for some people and that's beautiful for them. I don't want to take that away for them. That was very challenging for me. And I love my kids and I, made little art and craft things and there were parts of it that were beautiful. And also that is not the most effective way to manage childcare as a society. That should not be the ideal. So I'm not trying to go back to like, I would like one income to be enough to support a family because I don't think you should have to be trapped in a marriage.
Right.
Eternally tied to another person in order to survive. But I don't think we want to go back to that. Which is part of the development of credit. Either. Yeah. So what are we moving towards? And that's the thing for me, like, resist and fight, but also resist and fight is exhausting energy. And we've been doing it for so long. What are we creating and what are we building? I think it goes back to a little bit of what we were talking about last time. What are we creating? What are we building? And starting small to get to the big. What am I creating? What am I building here in my home with my children? And then what am I creating and building in my broader community? And that's, my family, my neighbors, my spiritual community. And like, I think we have to start building up our skills in those small places because we just don't have the kind of organizing infrastructure or coherence of any kind of movement here to really launch the revolution so many people talk about wanting to have here. And so I think it really is that part about starting real small of like, what can I do differently here in this space where I have influence and power today? And as I build up those skills, then am I able to take that out into those bigger spaces?
What are the bigger spaces?
Like launching a new political party, having a new constitutional convention, global solidarity. I don't, those things.
Oh, you still on that?
Always.
I hope they invite you to the constitutional convention. I really do.
I might just start my own.
You might need to.
I don't know, but for real, like, how do we get there? What are the skills it take to get there? And we have, I don't know, how far into the Wall-E future do you think that we are right now? I think we're not living on the Wall-E spaceship.
Yeah, we were talking about this before. We're on the battleship. Like, this is.
Oh, you're on Battlestar Galactica. I'm talking about the Wall-E.
The whole Earth is.
The one where everybody just had their screen on an inner tube and they just floated around without talking to each other. Like, I feel like we are partially into that future already. It took them a lot of time to get up off their inner tubes and start connecting with other humans. And I feel like, unfortunately, we want to be at the, like, ready to start an armed revolution tomorrow phase. And we're really at the, like, I need to figure out how to get up off this inner tube and talk to another human being phase.
I think there's a lot of that in middle class America, in the United States specifically.
Yes,
that's
what I'm mostly talking about.
Well, yeah, okay. So, but you had talked about a global movement, and so thinking in those terms, I have no doubt that people are doing it, and it's it's going to come to these shores. It would be neato if we had some sort of appropriate welcoming committee so that we could distinguish ourselves outside of what would need to be burnt to the ground. But you know,
Are you saying we're going to be invaded by?
I don't know. Who knows? Ideas. I think that's what their fear is, right? Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know who. I can't. Again, like to your point of what is mine to do, what is mine to do today. I know from lived experience that entire movements can start with a discussion happening with 2 or 3 people. And while I do believe that bending around these ideas, traveling through these realities is very useful, I think it's very useful for instigating and providing, again, possibility models, right? For folks who are boots on the ground in the movements, whether those be at Capitol Hill or in the streets, right? And primarily, given our audience to date, in their office buildings. So with that being the structural reality of where we are outside of the fantasy, yes, being invaded with ideas is clearly what they're afraid of, which is what the banning of the books, banning of the people, banning of the TV shows, attacking so many cities. I think they're in Memphis and New Orleans now, maybe. I don't know. You know, it and not being able to do so effectively because the ideas are dumb and nobody's really going along with it. And that's wild. You know, these are the people, to your point, these are the people who have the power, the access, the equipment, the means, and the ideas are so shit that nobody's down. The small minority that is trying to move with them and has been trying to move with them since the Tea Party. Good God. They just look like a bunch of buffoons. Everyone in the country knows it. And it's not going to work. It's falling apart right in front of their own eyes. It's wild.
Oh, can I tell you a good story?
Please do.
On I-5 between Portland and Seattle, somewhere I believe around Chehalis, Washington, there has been a giant billboard, I believe is on private land owned by a very conservative farmer or something, that just has had horrific, like, Bible hate. And like,
sure.
And it was like a giant picture of Uncle Sam and like MAGA flags. And
okay, we get it. It grosses me out to think about.
Yeah. It's now been replaced by a billboard that just says #Native Land.
How?
Because dude died and the Chehalis tribe, I believe, bought the property and they put their own billboard. It's been assaulting people on that very heavily traveled stretch of freeway on the West Coast. We call it freeway, not expressway, for decades, probably since my entire life. So at least since the 80s, possibly since the 70s. And now it's been replaced by, and all it says is #Native Land.
Well, there you go.
Celebrate the small wins and successes.
You have to.
Important. I was going to ask you something. But I think it slipped my mind. As I told that story, I forgot what the other thing I was going to say was. What are you trying to build?
Okay, that was riveting.
What's your vision?
Of what?
The future.
Oh, no. I don't know. as I said before, I mean that to me that's too amorphous. I couldn't say. I do believe that even the idea of me knowing or thinking I know is very much
It's not
against
asking you
the.
to like dictate it for the world. It's just like
No, I don't. You asked
to get our
what
brains
my
going and
thought is.
believing that something else is possible.
I think that it's going to take much more discussion and much more deliberation, and that's where I am at right now. That's where I'm at right now.
Okay.
Honestly, like
All right.
I hearing what you've been sharing and no, and I talked about it. I talked about it. It really would be reifying that social safety network and then allowing for folks to maneuver through. Life is not going to just be a cakewalk because of that, if it were to happen. But yeah, that's that really would be the thing right now. As ever is just I hope he dies first. That's my big thing, day to day, and seems like it's happening. But just because the cult is not going to survive. A cult of personality cannot survive past the point of the personality. So looking forward to being able to then collectively kind of like recompose ourselves and figure that out, start asking those questions, because I have many more at this point questions than answers.
Okay. Well, I look forward to hearing more in the future. But for whoever's out there listening, why don't you let us know? Send us an email or a comment somewhere and let us know what's your vision of the future you're trying to build. And if you have resources or examples of communities where folks are already experimenting beyond this economic binary of capitalism versus communism, let us know what those are so we can start highlighting and having more possibility models to follow, to build from, to collaborate with as we try to think about what comes next. If we got the strategy and the solidarity towards what's the vision, what's the goal, what are we working for?
Absolutely. Hey, if they're doing that, what email should they be writing to?
info@strategyandSolidarity.org.
That would be fantastic. Please make sure that you do subscribe over at strategyandSolidarity.org. We would love for you to be somebody who gets to hear this early and the whole sloppy mess of it, and that is available there before it is available for listeners on all of your favorite podcatchers. That would include YouTube, the Apple, whatever they're calling their thing now. I don't even know what they're
Apple
calling it anymore.
Podcasts.
All right. And Spotify. What else? Do we have any events coming up? Any things to say to the people about things?
Well, you didn't ask me what my vision was. You just
Hey, what's your,
skipped over
well,
it.
okay, we're well over an hour. What's your
Just
vision?
assumed I didn't have one because you don't.
No, I thought you'd been sharing for quite some time and it's over an hour. What's your vision?
My vision is nonlinear definitions of time where we allow the time necessary for what's happening instead of sticking it into a box. No, I'm playing. Universal healthcare, universal childcare, universal basic income that at least make sure that people can meet their basic needs. That's my baseline. And then lots of opportunity for creative piloting and exploration of strategies to meet all of our various challenges of human life. The value system based on individual autonomy within collective responsibility.
Who's doing, wait, all that, who's doing creative piloting of what?
Everybody.
Everybody can't do everything. What are you talking about?
There should be opportunities within universities, within small businesses, like competitions, like who can come up with the things that are going to most benefit humanity. And then we give you money to go do that thing. There's lots of things we could do. I want to tap into human intelligence instead of artificial intelligence. Like we could be doing so many things if we really gave people the resources they needed to like pursue their interests and passions. If the directive is to benefit humanity and all life on earth instead of benefit your pocketbook at the expense of everyone else. Fill your pockets with gold while everyone else drowns, and then also your pockets are full of gold so you drown too. So it weighs you down.
I like that. Your
Right,
pockets are full of gold, so you drown too. Don't drown too. Do the work. Let's get engaged. Let's do the things. Let's be possibility models for each other. Gosh. How do you feel? Did we do a
Sounds
podcast?
good. We did it.
All right. Hey, do what? Which what?
Have a good week. Take good care of yourselves out there.
Do that. And thank you to Amadi Will for the use of his song. Thank you to our supporters at Strategy and Solidarity for making this possible. And as I said, please do look for us at the App Store at strategyandSolidarity.org. And thanks for listening. And here's hoping that you find comfort or joy in this world that's on fire. That's not cold.
It's really
better?
rainy here. It's not really on fire. It's
Okay.
rain
All right.
falling down from the sky.
Okay. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye.